Hi everyone, this is Anna Brandt, and today we're doing a brand new video on baskets and buckets. I did this video about 7 years ago. That's been circulating on YouTube over and over and over again, and I decided it's time to update the video. People always ask, what is my favorite bucket? What is the favorite size? So I pulled some of my favorite buckets and baskets, and I've measured them so I can show you the size. Now you're gonna say, Anna, this first one is really, really small. Do you like it? And it is actually really small. I actually brought it all the way back from Germany when I was teaching at an expo in Germany. And I measured the top, and it's actually 7.5 inches. And you would say, and it's way too small, but actually you're going to see in the photo on the screen, it's not too small. While it appears pretty small, it's great for little tiny, tiny babies in which these are way too big. So if you have a little baby, usually babies are around 6 pounds by the time they get to our studio. We don't usually photograph them smaller than that. But if you have a 6-pound or even a tiny 7-pounder, this is great for them leaning right over the bucket. Now it is higher than most. I'll measure the height. The height is 8 inches, so it's 7.5 in the diameter and 8 inches in height. But I love it, especially if you're putting flowers in around. So you don't need a lot of these, but just having one for the smaller babies definitely comes in handy. And as a backup, you could always use it as a vase for flowers as well. Okay, now this one, I love this one. This is actually kind of beat up because I've thrown it in my suitcase and traveled around the world with it. The inside is 9.5. So it doesn't pass the arm test for putting a baby inside, and I'll explain that in a minute, but it does pass the test for going over. You know, when they're going over, the idea is you want enough support to go elbow to elbow. That's why this is fine for tiny babies. This is great for an average size, even bigger baby. I love the roundness of it. You're going to see in some of the photos, I've covered this with a felted layer. I've added flowers to it, and I've done a lot of things to alter the way this basket looks. So it's a great basket for putting babies over, okay? So these first two baskets are for putting babies inside, and they would lean over, not for putting them on their back because they wouldn't fit. Now, when we did our first video 7 years ago, I did the arm test. I said that your arm with your hand bent should be able to fit in the basket or bucket. That way you know a baby would fit in there. Because if you take a baby and you curl the baby on your arm, you can fit a baby between your wrist and your elbow. We do it all the times with dads and babies, right? And dad's arms are usually much longer. So I always tell people when they go shopping, if you want to put a baby inside, curled up on their back, then you should put your arm inside with your hand curled to make sure that you can get a baby inside. So these all pass that test. So with these, a baby could go inside on their back and a baby could lean over as well. The diameter for this bowl, I brought this bowl back from Brazil, is 12.5 inches. Now, I do list the vendors of where I received these items from on the end of this video. This is a nice wood bowl. I love how round this is. And what I love to do is I put this under furs and I get a nice perfect dip for the baby. Now, if you want to ask me the height of the deepest point, I would say it's about 5.5 inches or so of the depth inside. So it just has a nice round dip. Now, this next one is 13.5 inches in diameter. And it's a great bowl. It's a very popular bowl. This bowl comes in many different colors. This is also a favorite bowl. These two bowls are my favorite. In an airplane and a suitcase, this is lighter. So this is one that I would take with me. This is a little bit heavier. It's a lot of bit heavier. A lot of it. It is heavier. And so I probably wouldn't put this in a suitcase because it is so much heavier. But the depth is awesome. And the depth is about 6.5 inches or so. The depth is fabulous. It also works great under furs. What's great about both of these bowls is baby could lean over or baby could be inside on their back. This is another one that is definitely more shallow, and it's 14 inches. So it clearly passes the arm test, but it is more shallow. So to put the baby on their back, you could do it, but it's just not that deep. A baby could rest over it as well, but it is very wide. You want to make sure that you put a weight in your baskets and buckets, and I will show you a sample of my weight because you want to make sure that babies are a little bit more top heavy. We know their head is heavier, and so they can lean forward. So you want to make sure that you put a weight in the bottom of these because you definitely don't want the baby to tip over. In addition, I also want to say that you should always have a spotter within reach of the baby. You should never put a baby in any of these, especially the one leaning over, without a spotter close by. If you don't have an assistant, I definitely recommend to mom or dad stay close by to your babies. The most of babies' weight is in their heads, and so using a bucket or a basket where they're leaning over it, all the weight is going to go to the front. Now, a weight will help balance that, but what if the baby has sudden movements and lifts their heads up? They could roll out, and you definitely don't want to risk any injury to a baby. These are not toys, these are props, and in some cases they're like meant for food. So you want to remind yourself, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned photographer, that no prop or pose is worth the safety of the baby. So make sure that you have a spotter at all times. Now I'm going to show you the weight. So this is just a 5-pound disc weight, and it's from Amazon.com. You can go to kit.com/AnnaBrandt, and all of my favorite things from Amazon are there. I love the disc weights because it fits in my hand. It's nice and small. It can fit into a bucket this size or fit into any of these items. And then you would put something soft because you wouldn't want the baby to be resting on this weight. So just make sure you put something soft between the weight and the baby because this is metal cold surface. Lastly, this is a very popular basket. It's 17 inches in diameter and definitely passes the arm test. It's only a few shallow inches, and it's actually not too different than this one, but it does have a really good incline here. I love this basket. As you can see in the photos, I have some great images of felted layers of babies in this basket. It's just a really pretty basket, and people ask me where I get this all the time. This, I believe, is actually, I think, an Etsy find, and you can find them from time to time. They always sell out whenever they do pop up. So there you have it. These are my favorite baskets and bowls. You have the measurements. At the end of this video, you have the sources where I found these items, as well as a link to my favorite items on Amazon.com. Any questions, please post them below.